I'm a practitioner. I'm a person who does things, and as a person who is informed by the ethos of praxis, by actually doing things, I have come to realize that there are critics who think that being critical is an expression of praxis, which it's not. Nobody needs a critic to imagine, to invent reasons for the system to not work as an excuse making for their failure to execute. And I actually have a couple of really decent examples. I'm associated with a fairly successful DIY endeavor that has got a lot of media recognition for its impact, its profound impact on the society of that particular subculture. But having been there, I can tell you that there are a lot of people, I would say in the early years, a majority of people, which I think is the important part of this story. A majority of them in the early days were critics, and they had issued actually very, very credible criticisms. They would say, Ken, I don't want to go to Burnside. I know you guys like going there, but it smells like pee. It's dangerous. It's not even that easy to skate. Actually, it's hard to skate. And for that reason alone, I would rather just go skate something else, which is actually, they're right. I mean, they were right. Burnside in that era smelled like pee because there was literal human urine and feces at the park. And it was because we were actively displacing squalor that had filled in the gap. That's what it had happened, actually. And that actually speaks to why it was dangerous. Part of us displacing this squalor was displacing the people who were using it as a staging for drugs and human trafficking going into Old Town. So they would literally shoot handguns at us. And of course, it's a concrete skate park, so you guys can do that all you want. It ain't gonna do anything. But they're right. It smelled like pee and feces, and it was dangerous. And further, it wasn't that easy to skate. It still isn't easy to skate. It's kinked. It was built advantageously. It didn't have a holistic plan. It's not easy to skate. And as we say, Burnside's not for beginners. If you are more comfortable in the shallow end, you should definitely stay in the shallow end. So this informed my, this early experience informed my philosophies on actually getting innovations out the door, because that's actually what I did in private enterprise. Everybody talks about disruptive innovations, but very few people actually have done it. And it's because it's actually hard to do. It's actually hard to pull off. According to formal business literature, it's cheaper, simpler, easier to use, and it typically manifests below the fold and at the last mile. And as a consequence, those who represent the institution are like, that's not our market. It's cheap, it's simple, it's easier to use than the existing alternative. And let me get back to the Burnside example. They would say it's too hard to use. We would rather use these other places. They were literally referencing places that were illegal. Like they would go to the Viewmaster. You guys know about Viewmasters, right? The Viewmaster headquarters in Beaverton, there's a set of stairs there. To them, that was easier. It's also illegal. So you got chased by cops, you got chased by security. So, pick your difficulty. And so Burnside, by contrast, periodically you'd get people shooting guns into the place. All the time it smelled like pee. But because we were persistently there, we could push back on those difficulties. And over time it became easier, although that requires you to step up in terms of your athleticism. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to do the same thing over and over again. And you get to pick your thing. So in private enterprise, when you're developing a disruptive innovation, you deliver it at the last mile. It's cheaper, simpler, easier to use, lower friction than the existing model. And let me clear up a misperception. A disruptive innovation is not a breakthrough innovation that simply makes good products better. It's not just that. Disruptive innovations transform complicated, expensive products into simpler and more affordable ones. And why does that matter? Because we're trying to effect a mainstream change, crossing the chasm from early adopters and visionaries into the more mainstream space. And it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but that's why disruptive innovation is such a valuable space. Not everybody has the chops. They don't have the grit. They don't have the wherewithal to actually do that thing. And they want the reward, but they don't want to have to earn it. And so the benefit of our existing solution, which we call a halo community, is that the halo is so engaging. They never talk about the house, which is a pretty cool thing. In fact, that's usually what kills these endeavors in the housing space. People sort of fetishize their desire to have a McMansion with a lot of niche trim. But the people that need the Halo communities aren't trying to get their next McMansion. They've already tumbled out of their existing place and they're trying to get a step back because they're upwardly mobile. And I dig that. So what they want is they want to embrace that community benefit that they know gives them that force multiplier. Grandma can watch the kids because I trust grandma, but also I want to keep an eye on grandma because I love her and I don't want to outsource that, right? So they embrace it and they're thinking about the halo, not just the social halo, but the economic halo that delivers job creation and economic advantage. And they never talk about the house. The house to them is like, they're like, I don't want to talk about what the counters look like. I'm just happy that my mom is next door and then my uncle is over there and we can share a front yard and I don't have to worry about weirdos being in there. It's actually what we ran into in Portland. We had to wash human feces out of our front yard and we lived in a nice neighborhood in an expensive home. That's the state of things in the city and people are over it. So anyway, I guess my counsel is you'll get people that'll say, I see your plan, but why doesn't it do this and this and this? You know, again, people will masquerade their lack of faith and frankly their inability to step into the solution as if they're helping you, but all they're doing is inventing more reasons not to do the thing. And also, it's often not for them anyway. As I shared in a separate article, the people who are using the language of your particular solution are ironically the least likely to adopt it because they are part of why disruptive innovations are inhibited. They adopt, they embody the language because it gives them high prestige, but they're doubling down on the preservation of a state of affairs that isn't working for them anyway. And that's why you have to deliver it at the last mile, below the fold, cheaper, simpler, easier to use. People who make a way instead of making excuses. That's like, if I were to call this article that, it would be this. It would be that title. Making a way instead of making excuses. To me, that's a hard delineation. Over time, you either make excuses or you make a way, and there's no middle ground on this.